Emanating from the piney woods of East Texas, this is the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. RLG has been playing music since the mid-70s. Ricky Lynn Gregg was the very first country artist to have a website and the first Native American country artist signed to a major label. In the 1990s, he had count them, six top 10 CMT videos. He had 3 studio albums, including one that reached the top 40 on the Billboard charts in 1992. He has had 3 top 75 Billboard singles, including the number 36 If I Had a Cheating Heart in 1993. And of course, almost 30 years later, he is the current and reigning 2017 ETX Music Guitarist of the Year. Guys, this is the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Careful what you wish for, it might come true. Boy, and if it does, what are you gonna do?
Welcome to the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Hey guys, Boston Chris here for the second episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. That's right, we have got Ricky in line for a second one, y'all. This is like a sequel. It's like Die Hard 2.
2 in a row.
I'm telling you. We're sitting here in the month of April 2018, and we have a phenomenal show lined up for you guys today. We have a Grammy Award-winning, platinum-selling artist all in line for you. Ricky's going to talk to an old friend of his named John Berry. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with John's work. He's done Your Love Amazes Me.
Absolutely. Your love amazes me.
Right. You might remember Standing on the Edge of Goodbye.
Those 2 songs we wrote for the same publishing company, so I remember them fresh.
Yeah.
Little eggs.
And so they were signed to Liberty within weeks of each other back in the 90s, and they got to catch up with each other after probably 20 or 30 years not seeing each other. And man, what a treat that's going to be for everybody out there. That's about a 25-minute segment. I think you guys will really enjoy that. Ricky asks some great questions and gets to the nuts and bolts of what makes John successful as a singer-songwriter. Then, right after that, we have an even bigger treat, I think, because it's the next generation of musician. Ricky sits and talks with John's son, Sean, who has a new album in the works out there. He is actually living and recording here in Texas.
Mm-hmm. Near us.
Yeah.
We won't say where, but White Oak.
You say White Oak, I say Gladewater.
I didn't want to totally give it away.
So it's probably either in Glade Oak or Whitewater.
Yes.
One of the two. But also we have our, hopefully we're going to do this every episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Ask Ricky and Ask Boston segment. He's going to ask me some questions. I have no idea what he has up his sleeve. Hopefully it's not a dagger or anything like that, because that would be bad.
Dagger of Love.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds like a good song.
That sounds like an Unkle Dallas saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
speaking of Unkle Dallas, that's going to be our main topic this week. Someone who mentored both of us.
Yes.
Now, Ricky and I come from different generations. He's a little bit older than me, not much, but mentored really heavily by Unkle Dallas,
yes.
And really excited to get to talk about Uncle and kind of share some memories with each other.
Keep his love alive.
Absolutely, and I think that's really important to both of us. Unc is on our walls here several times. You guys can see that in our backdrop. We have the poster from his memorial music session right behind Ricky there. And man, Unc was just a special kind of dude, wasn't he?
Special and way before his time.
Yeah.
I got to know Unkle Dallas as Don Wicker.
Right.
Because I lived about 2 blocks away from his mother and father-in-law ran a store. So I saw this character that was unique. And then a couple of years later, I played with his brother-in-law, Sebastian Alaniz.
Okay.
And he was still Don Wicker, and I was about 15. And then I got to play with the great Randy Phelps, and him and Randy were great friends because they were so ahead of their times.
Revolutionary,
yeah. And always wanted to learn. And at 18, Randy said, we're going to do a show with Unkle Dallas, and I'm going, oh, who's Unkle Dallas? Don Wicker. And we do this show, and he comes out as Unkle Dallas, and it was never Don Wicker again.
Yeah.
And, of course, he came out with chainsaw, cowboy hats, Alice Cooper eyes, and blew people away. And
do you know how he came up with the name, Unkle Dallas?
I really don't. I know that he strived for uniqueness, and when he came out with Unkle Dallas, it blew us all away because Dallas is where we all strive to go to.
Right.
And He was just a person that knew what he wanted.
Right.
And I think in any musicians, when they go to record with a producer, producers like to work with musicians that know what they want. They don't want to have to tell you. Kind of like an actor. A director will tell you what to do, but don't do it. And that's the way Unkle was.
Yeah. Way ahead of his time. I think one thing that I really kind of respected about Unc is he was a self-created legend. You know,
He
just pulled himself up from his own.
Wouldn't vary
steps.
from it either.
Yeah, and just always that person that enabled other people around him to become bigger than they were at the time they met him. There's so many people, so many records sold out there by people that were mentored directly by Unkle Dallas Greenhorn.
That's right.
People like Little Texas.
Absolutely.
Ricky Lynn Gregg, of course. I mean, we could talk about it forever. Just the people that he's touched.
Nuts.
And his passion for local music was unequaled by anybody else.
Well, he played up until he couldn't, and that was the end. When
he was playing right up until the end. By God, I mean, he played a gig. I guess maybe 2.5 weeks before he passed. Yeah. Had another one on the books for a week after he passed.
Yeah. We need to play that concert for him.
Well, I have it.
Oh, yeah, I've been playing it.
Yeah.
Invite me.
I also have the memorial session on video. Yeah.
What a special night, the night you and I met.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cool just seeing all of his friends out there, and for me personally, I didn't know Unc very long as a friend. I guess it was probably about 8 months, and all these other guys have known him since they were 15. Like Ricky.
Well, but I want to add to you, people that knew him in the end for like a year or two were in tears, emotionally dead.
Yeah.
They were touched by him that quickly.
Right.
I didn't know him since I was 10, 11, 12, 13, and at 15 knew him as a musician. But he touched so many in a way that when he passed, people that he'd known for 8 months, a couple of years, wanted to run to the forefront and lead this memorial.
Yeah.
So that's some deep love very fast.
Well, yeah, it was. It was a just a weird experience for me because I'm very guarded and I don't really open up to a lot of folks on a personal level. It takes a lot of trust for me to do that. I think that's the Yankee in me, maybe.
Yankee? You're not a Yankee. You're a doggone Texan now there, Boston.
I'm a Texan now. But
well, he's watching Boston Red Sox.
And
I bought
anymore.
my Boston colors.
I turned it off. Ricky Lynn Gregg is here.
Well, I have my Boston colors on, and I have my red underwear.
He has no Boston colors on.
Well, aren't they kind of this right here and this right here?
No.
Oh, these are... Shh.
No.
This isn't Yankee colors, right?
You see what he's trying to do, y'all. It's not going to work. Don't worry. But, yeah, man, we talk damn near every night.
Yeah.
I think at first he was real curious about who I was and what I was after, I guess. Yeah. I've heard stories from people that he was calling about me and asking questions about me to other people. And of course, I didn't know about this until after. Yeah. And so just hearing stories like that with me involved was very eye-opening for me. Yeah. Because we were talking dang near every night up until the end. We were both night owls.
Yeah.
So when everybody else is sleeping, Unkle Dallas and I are on the phone for God knows how long.
Yeah. Well, his birthday was December 24th.
Yep.
And you and I have a strange story I'd like to bring up over this past week.
Yeah.
Sharon Ryan, my Facebook president and my agent, she's here with us from Ohio. So, yay, big round of applause for her. She does help keep my outer life from Boston Chris going when we're not doing this thing.
Yeah.
But she called me and said, I don't know if your last fan club president didn't open this, but I just opened a email from Unkle Dallas. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah. She said, and it was a picture of Unkle Dallas looking at me going, I'll always be with you, little Bubba. And you'd say that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Little Bubba.
Mm-hmm.
It just won't be here. It'll be in another smoky hall room at another bar.
Wow.
And then that same night, tell your story.
Is this the David Allen story?
Well, yeah, but actually, my story probably came a couple of days after, because when I told you that, you said you're not going to believe what happened 2 nights ago.
Yeah, so we had David Allen and Leslie Satcher on the show recently, a couple Fridays ago. And so that episode just released on May 11th, which is a couple days ago, or yesterday, rather. And so we're out here in this very living room interviewing these folks. And of course, David grew up with Unkle Dallas
Yeah.
and yourself and all the other iconic guys from around here. So we got to talking a little bit about Unkle Dallas because I felt like David and I met strictly because we both knew who Unk was.
Right.
So I would have been remiss not to mention Unk during the show.
Sure.
And it was kind of thundering and lightning out, but it was kind of
bad.
It wasn't at first though.
Yeah.
You know, like you could hear little rumbles. You knew it was raining outside. It was a little dreary that day, but it wasn't like all out Texas yet. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't kablam.
Yeah.
You know, and then just in the middle, we started. You know, we did like maybe 30 minutes not talking about Unk at all, just talking about Leslie and David's career and stuff like that. And then we started the second segment, which means we start a new video basically.
Yeah.
And so we start talking about Unk, and literally within 45 seconds of talking about Unk, we got this huge thunderclap. I mean, just out of nowhere. You know, it was real light thunder and lightning, and then out of nowhere, kabam! And it was the only time it happened. Like, only time it happened the whole day.
Yeah.
Was that one time when we were talking about Unk. Yeah. And David looked up and goes, I hear you, Unk. I know. And so playing this
the
back,
records too.
Yeah, in post-production, like you see the spike lines of the audio when I'm working on, you know, post-production on a episode or whatever. And right there, like 5 minutes into the first second segment, you see this spike that just, it's not even a spike, it's just solid audio for like 2 seconds, just in the middle of everything. I mean, I'm surprised my microphone still works.
He was talking to y'all.
Yeah, clearly. It would not surprise, I don't think it would surprise anybody that Unk came back through a thunderclap, though.
Well, God does work in mysterious ways, and you and I know.
Yeah.
He had the heart to be right there.
Yeah. And, you know, all the people that I know who knew Unk, just about all of them have a voicemail saved from him. And, I mean, I have an old phone that I had six of his voicemails on there.
Yeah.
And I went through probably 3 different phone contracts where I refused to trade in the phone to get a free phone.
Right.
Because of those voicemails being on there. And I still have the damn phone.
Well, let me add this. This was from another fan club president who didn't open it, and it came a month before he passed.
Wow.
And so
you're talking like right around his birthday, too.
Yeah, right. It was on the 26th,
okay.
and he died right there in February.
It was like January 28th or something like that.
We had his memorial on the 14th.
Okay,
on
so
the 15th.
It was the 8th. I think it was January 8th. Yeah.
And you know, he's still missed. We're still talking about him. You know, I don't think there's an episode you're going to see. We're not going to make some type of story about Unkle Dallas, because as hard as he tried to be a superstar, which he could have been 20 years ago, we'll never let him die.
And I don't think that was what he was about either. I mean, like you said, he could have been a superstar. I mean,
way ahead of his time.
Yeah, I mean, so
misunderstood back.
So charismatic, so edgy, so
committed.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And Don.
Yeah.
Don't call me Don.
Right.
And he had a temper at times.
Oh yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. And I think everybody knew his phone number. Because he would make sure you knew.
And he would answer his phone.
Yeah. And I love, you know, every message you hear from him, or, you know, when he was still alive, you'd get a phone call from him, and the first thing he would say, he wouldn't say, hey, Bubba, or hey, brother. He'd tell you what time it was first. So,
right.
So, Boston, I'm calling. It's 4:18. And it's about 30 minutes before dark 30. And
yeah. My favorite was Little Bubba. You still dating that biker chick? I was going,
now,
good to see you, Unc.
Also, back in the day, he did try to start a union for musicians.
He did.
Here.
I was there at that first meeting.
Yeah, and why do you think that didn't work?
Because Longview, Texas, and the East Texas area, but back then it was about Longview. It hadn't spread together yet. People couldn't come. It's like Indians on reservations. There's the conformists and there's the traditionalists. Mm-hmm. They're not going to agree. Mm-hmm. And when you can't get at least people to not be bipartisan, it won't work. And so everybody had too many ideas. Another reason Unkle Dallas was kind of leading it, and you know, he was a little ahead of times. Mm-hmm. And may I bring up that when they were going to bring Ted Nugent to town, and the city denounced it because of a reason, he was the only one brave enough to get in front of city council and go, you know what? You're making a big mistake.
Yep.
Because this is music. This isn't about racial. This isn't about what you like in music. This is about an artist coming to town to entertain the people that they want to entertain. Now, if it's someone else...
There's an infamous picture of that, too, that was in the Journal, I think, of Unkle Dallas kind of storming that.
Let me tell you what, he got your point across.
Sure did.
Very little heard in there, but I'm going to tell you what, volumes heard in East Texas, which you and him helped bring that fact to fruition.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of what I do is twofold. I do a lot of this in memory of my dad. And then Unkle Dallas kind of became a surrogate dad to me very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, very, very quickly. And I noticed right away that we had a lot of the same qualities and traits and passion for music and people around here. Yeah. And I hope he saw that in me, and I think he probably did.
He did. The year before he went, we were at I was living in a nice place, swimming pool. We had parties, people, fun. And I'd sit by, and we'd put up a little drum set, bass and guitar, and I said, come on over here and play, Unc. He said, little Bubba, I just hadn't got it. He says, but I'm here because I want to be around it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Right.
I want to be here because I want to be around it. If I can't do it. And then he'd get well in a couple of weeks and go do it till he couldn't do it again. Yeah. And so he had that all the way to the end. And I'm just glad to be talking about it.
Yeah, same. It's always a cool, memorable occasion to talk with him. And, that's why I think I kind of gravitate towards folks like you, Donnie Heil, Sammy Brazier, all those guys. Bobby O. I mean, so many other folks that knew Unc and knew him much better than I did.
And you've named some heavyweights. The Bobby O's a heavy. He would not let you run over him.
Right.
His style was his style, and when you give him the mic, I'm going to tell you what, you don't change any parameters on the board. Yeah. It's going to get bigger, and it's going to have more thunder to it.
Absolutely, and I mean, again, brought a chainsaw on stage. Made sure it was as oily as it could possibly get because he wanted more smoke.
Yeah, right.
How many drummers out there, even nowadays, are frontmen in bands?
He could do them both.
Yeah. Phenomenal voice.
Approach.
Yeah.
He used to Hoochie Coochie Man.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, you would thought he wrote it.
Yeah.
And I believe, from being a songwriter and being in the business for over 40 years, the song belongs to a singer when you capture it. And he certainly taught me that.
Well, the legend is that he wrote the talking part of that song, that he would change it up.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Every time, but depending on who was in the audience. Something that I learned. It's like, oh, yeah. A little, don't know.
Yeah, right.
I won't say the name of that, but that's an awesome song.
Yeah.
My appendage is a chainsaw.
Yeah. And we have that CD on the wall as well. I don't know how many copies are in existence of that still.
They're all bought up.
Yeah.
They're worth $500 a piece.
Probably, yeah. I've got a couple of them.
They're worth $1,000?
I doubt it.
Well, not.
But I've got them.
It's priceless.
And just because if you are an Unkle Dallas fan out there and you'd like to have a copy of the music, I'm more than willing to share that with you all. So just you can email us at etxrocks@gmail.com. I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here.
No. But, cheers to Unkle Dallas.
Absolutely. Always in our hearts, always on our minds.
Yeah.
And as you guys might know, if you're following along with everything that we do here at the ETX ROCKS Show, and maybe you don't because I don't mention the awards too often on the show here, but last year we created a brand new award called the Unkle Dallas Award.
Which is a prestigious award.
Yeah, and the first year, the way I wanted to roll this out was, the first year it was called the Support Local Music Award. And I wanted Unc to win that award the first time that we had it. Because then I wanted to name the award after him for future years. So in other words, he's kind of the first winner of it, and then the namesake of it after that, if that makes sense.
Earned it, rightfully so.
Right. And, man, it was cool last year. I think Neil Laney won that award for the first year of it. Of course, you guys might know Neil out there. He's just a huge friend to music around here, and has donated probably 50 guitars to charity, and always out at the live venues when he's healthy enough to do so. So I thought he was a really good pick for the first award. And of course, Unkle won the Lifetime Achievement Award last year. And finally, after being on the ballot probably 5 times as a nominee, he finally won it last year, and much deserved.
Oh, Wells. Yeah. Knowing that this was going to be named after him. And you told me before, gosh, and there's more to that story I won't mention, but he deserves it. And one thing for sure, he's looking down upon us, because those 2 things occurred within days of us beginning the show.
Yeah.
The first time we talked about him.
Right.
And then all of a sudden we got 2 Unkle Dallas stories that are phenomena.
And completely,
in their own
separate
way,
from,
yes.
I mean, we weren't together at either one of these points.
Right.
And so he's always kind of putting himself into our minds.
Yes.
So if you don't believe in God out there, I got news for you. Just look around. That's all I got to say about that. We don't talk religion very often on the show, but
we're believers, right?
Just absolutely look around, pay attention. People and things and folks that you care about will always be there.
Hug your babies.
Of course.
And hug Unkle Dallas's picture.
Yeah, why not? So how well did you know Unk's family, Shannon?
Shannon, his daughter, came along. I knew her mother well.
Right.
That was Sebastian's sister.
Yeah.
So I hung out on Valentine Street off Harrison Road at their house.
Yeah, that's where the old muddy water, whatever. Yeah. What did they call it? The bottoms?
Well, no, this was back when I was about 14 or 15.
Okay. So he wasn't there yet?
No.
Okay.
So they had her when she was a baby. So we knew of each other as she grew up to be a lady.
Yeah.
But they got divorced early.
Yeah.
Unc never remarried. And
unless you count Chad.
Who?
Chad, his dog.
He not got another daughter?
No.
His dog. Oh my God! His dog was everything to him.
I'm telling you, that's what I'm saying.
And he would. And I'm sorry, but when you said that, I named mine Spot.
Yeah.
So when you said that, but he would speak all the time about, how we got me and Chad here, blah, blah.
All right, guys, so we've been sitting here. This is the second episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. Super excited to do this show, presented by the ETX ROCKS Show, which is really cool. And, man, we're going to do this every month on the second Saturday of every month is when the show is going to release. And having the legendary Ricky Lynn Gregg on the show every single week. We have to have him here. The show's named after him. Without any further ado, guys, we promised you a one-on-one exclusive interview between Ricky Lynn Gregg and John Berry, the Grammy Award-winning platinum record selling. He has 1 platinum record, 2 gold records. Guys, the one and only John Berry coming right up. Y'all don't go anywhere.
Hi, this is old Whispering Bill Anderson at the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville. Thank you for tuning in to the ETX ROCKS Show.
Hey, there's a lot to get to know about John Berry. First of all, so platinum record, 2 gold records, and beyond. That's 2 million records, John.
A couple million records out there.
Got a Grammy. And now you're working on something else that we'll get to. But I know you and I have a lot of stories to share. I'll spare the people.
A lot of history.
A lot of history. But we signed our record deal at Liberty within weeks of each other. And I remember migrating to each other like, what do we do next?
What do we do here?
What do we do here? And the fun and the giggles we shared. But I'm going to take people back to your family and your influences. And I know your mother was into gospel.
Oh, yeah.
But you have an interesting fact. Your father was into Van Cliburn. And I don't know if you know this, but Van Cliburn is from Kilgore.
Is he really? I did not know that. How about that?
Yes, and tell me a little bit about that, how gospel and Van Cliburn kind of molded where you're headed.
Yeah, around our house, just all kinds of music. My mom, of course, like you mentioned, loved to listen to gospel and Christian music. And my dad, he would love to come home. He was a carpenter, construction worker, but he'd come home from work and it just sort of washed the day away. Listen to Van Cliburn play the piano.
Wow.
And of course my sister was, teenager, 6 years older than me, and so she was listening to what was popular. And my brother, he started playing guitar when he was 12. So what big brother does, little brother starts to try to do. And And but I can remember when we got a stereo.
Mono to stereo.
Got a stereo, 2 speakers.
Come on, man.
And I'd lay between those 2 speakers and listen to this record called Tapestry by Carole King.
Oh my! One of the greatest records ever.
Ever. And just listening to that, you know. And my dad thought it was great, you know.
Yeah.
And my mom thought it was great. And all these different. My brother ended up getting into classical music, played cello, and sang opera.
Wow.
I mean, he was head on into it. Went to Europe and studied, and so just a lot of appreciation for good country music or good classical music, whatever it might be, as long as it was done well.
Yes.
That's what they were after.
Well, I want to kind of move up a step.
Sure.
Because this question comes from some of the things you and I talked about even before our records were out.
Yeah.
But, you know, you're from South Carolina.
Yeah.
You ended up in Athens, Georgia, one of the greatest college cities in the world.
It's the bomb.
And as I'm telling you what we did in Texas to kind of make step by step, you explained to me, you said, I get to do the Bulldogs home dates, which is knock it out of the park, but you also had a house gig.
Yeah.
I'm putting it together there, aren't I?
Yeah.
And you told me something that has stuck with me the day it came out of your mouth. I call it your phrase. You said, Ricky, we did nothing but impact songs.
Yeah.
Now, in my mind, my impact songs were anything from Led Zeppelin to Aerosmith to George Jones to Hank to Merle.
Yeah.
What was your impact songs at that day?
Volcano, Jimmy Buffett.
Come on.
Dun bum ba dum bum, standing in the chair.
Yeah.
Dun ba dum ba dum bum ba dum da dum. The
Brown-eyed
brown-eyed
girl,
standing
yeah.
in the chairs.
Come on.
You know, any of those certain songs. We developed a second set.
Yeah.
That once we kind of locked in on it, it didn't change for years.
Nobody's butt hit a scene.
It was the Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of set.
Right,
you know,
right.
Everybody knew what song was next.
Sure.
Everybody sang along. If we changed it, they'd be upset. So you know,
Right.
it was a lot of fun. We just had a great time doing it. But yeah, those songs that cause a physical reaction.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Leonard Skinner.
You know, Leonard Skinner, Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
3 steps.
Yeah.
You know, those songs, they cause a reaction. You can't explain them.
Yeah.
You can't write them.
Nope.
They just fall out of the sky, and you know, you just be grateful they came along, and for the people who wrote those songs, you know,
Yeah.
because you can't manufacture that.
No.
You just can't.
And to be, you don't have a record deal yet. You're about to realize you need one. And I came to that crossroads myself because we were born in the same year. I'm 20 days older than you.
Come on.
Yeah. But that day, after, you know, records and music for me kind of slimmed down, I said, anybody wants to be in a band with me, we have to do impact songs.
Yeah.
And I got that directly from you. And it certainly works to keep people standing and cheering and going on.
You know what's another one that we just learned?
Tell me.
We went to Atlanta to play at this little place called Eddie's Attic. 200 people.
That's all.
And we got invited to come do an acoustic set there, and it turned into Athens reunited because everybody graduated from Athens. 90% of them live in Atlanta now.
Right.
It was like being at 1989, being back in Athens.
Oh, beautiful.
And I had always wanted to do this song, but for some reason never did back in the day. But we did that daggone Neil Diamond song, Sweet Caroline, that night.
Sweet Caroline.
You could not hear me in the band because the audience was singing so loud. It was incredible. It was just madness, you know, just madness.
John, we're in Gladewater, Texas.
Yeah. Gusher Days.
Gusher Days. You're connected here.
Yeah.
You have a son-in-law?
I have a son.
Right, son.
Yeah.
But who married who?
My son married Tim Barnett's daughter.
Tim Barnett's daughter.
Yeah. And we were actually playing in Longview at the Belcher Center.
Okay.
And my band and I were doing a set, but before we did our set, my son Sean and our other son Kalen opened the show and did a little 20-minute thing.
Oh yeah.
And then Sean and Kalen, of course, played with us during our set. And then after the show, we're in the lobby visiting like we always do, and we meet the Barnetts. And Tim and Christy are there, and Christy's sister says to my son Sean, "You need to meet my niece, Kayla. Y'all are two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
Well, they got married a year ago, New Year's Eve.
Way to go.
And Tim and Christy have become dear friends to us, and we've just, it's like we've known each other forever, and so so Sean moved. If your kid's going to get in a U-Haul van,
Yes.
and wave goodbye and drive halfway across the country, I couldn't ask for better people for him to be around.
Hey, that's an extension of who you are, buddy.
Yeah, just good folks.
Let me go back, and this is some of the things you and I talked about. We've forgotten this. You have, I have, and you probably haven't forgotten the event. But you had a bad motorcycle wreck.
Yeah, man.
Both legs are broken. A hip is broken.
Yeah.
You're grounded. Where
Everywhere.
along that time when you're grounded did you really migrate to your guitar and your singing? Did that time grounded help you elevate your mind to that's where I want to be?
Well, I had always, I did 2 albums before that,
Mm-hmm.
and I just had a little studio in the basement of my parents' house, cutting horrible records.
Come on now.
And I cut two more in that little studio. But I guess really what it did for me is I couldn't go back to the factory I was working in, but I could sit on a stool and play guitar, and that's
What a way to hone a craft, by the way.
and so that's what I ended up doing to make a living. Now I don't think I really had any other, maybe a few part-time jobs here and there over the years, but that's,
We're lifers, man.
yeah. So so that's all I've really done is make music since then, and it's kind of crazy.
It's kind of crazy. Boston Chris and I from ETX ROCKS, who sponsors the show, we have a mutual friend named Unkle Dallas.
Yeah.
And I knew Unkle Dallas before he was Unkle Dallas. And Unkle Dallas taught us how to be rock stars, country singers. In other words, build your persona, hold your shoulders back, and no matter how wacky it is, own it.
Make the most of it.
Own it.
Own it.
And, some of the things that we're talking about remind me of Unkle Dallas because there was no stopping to him. He had his own way. I sort of had my own way. I knew in this area, I grew up here in Longview, Gladewater, and I knew to get out. I knew to leave. As you told me back when we were kids, you go, I knew I was in Athens and we did these impact songs, but I had to go one more step.
Yeah.
And absolutely, he was one that encouraged me to, man, you got to go to Dallas.
Yeah.
You told me, and I remember this, you said, man, I've got to get a record deal. And being the same age, I was at that point where I've got to get a record deal.
Yeah. We're grandpas. If if somebody came to Nashville in their 30s trying to get a record deal, they'll be like,
right. Oh, I was on the edge of that.
Where's your kids at? I mean, I was in my 30s.
Yeah.
By the time I got my deal.
Yeah.
So.
And the manager you had back then, you still have the same manager, or are you managing yourself?
Yeah, manage myself.
Okay, yeah. The manager you had, I thought was perfect. He was a young guy, snapper, cappy, snappy.
Yeah.
Did Charlie Daniels have much influence with your manager or helping you? I know Jimmy did, Jimmy Bowen.
Yeah, well, David Corlew's who you're talking about.
Yeah.
David's a great guy.
Yes.
And of course he's been working with. He started off with Charlie, I think, as a T-shirt salesman.
Imagine that.
And then over the years, just continued to work different odd jobs and different things with Charlie, and then ended up taking over when Charlie needed a manager. David stepped up and said, "I can do this." Wow. He's a great guy, just a terrific person.
Man. I always admired him a lot. And my manager had been there before, Jim Prater.
Oh yeah.
Of course, we brought in one of the Memphis Mafia, and I think that's what killed it.
Yeah.
But because he used to go to Capitol Building going, they finally got kicked out.
Oh.
That's another story. Lamar Fight, do you remember him?
Oh yeah.
Who couldn't? He hung around Bowen a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
John, you got a Grammy. I went to Larry Gatlin's house, and he had his Grammy on its own little stand.
Yeah.
And everywhere we went, he wanted to embellish on something. We'd talk about his Grammy. Now, I saw that firsthand through him, but anyone else that's been awarded with that, there seems to be something that glows about them that they don't turn on or off. Yeah. What was that feeling for you?
Well, I was part of a project, Amazing Grace, Country Salutes Gospel. And I had a song on that album that got the Grammy, and I think the Grammy goes to the producer. I do have a really nice plaque that's like a citation looking thing.
Sure.
And that talks about the Grammy Award, and that's really nice. It really is. And
but getting the nod, man. I mean, that's
it
shows up in your bios. It's all over the internet.
It is cool. I mean, it is a good thing, and you know, it's not something that's, you know, it's almost like, you know, if I just got nominated, if they just nominate me,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah, just
if
could you put one of those squares of my picture in it?
yeah, can I just come to the party, you know?
But they did know your name.
Yeah, and but it's a lot of fun, and it's the only thing that got me back, because I went to the Grammy Awards, you know, thinking this is cool, and it'd be so fun to hear them say and nominees for
Sure.
best country male vocalist are, and blah 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 blah,
Right.
John Barry,
Right.
and you know what they did that year? They had Shania Twain singing "Any Man of Mine." And then they would cut to each artist and put their name under it.
Right.
They didn't say my name. I didn't even get to hear them say my name. I was like, really? So,
Come on.
oh well. And then I didn't get it anyway. So.
As you were then, you are now. You're the humble, God-fearing man that
Well,
I
you know,
always knew you
it
were.
really, it is a lot of fun, and the recognition and stuff is fun. The more importantly, the recognition buys you more time.
Yes. It certainly does.
It buys you more time. It perpetuates the fame.
Yes.
It makes the big wheel continue to turn.
It keeps you alive in people's space and minds.
Yeah. But the reality is, none of us are curing cancer. We're just singing songs.
Yes.
You know, and
Yes.
there's a lot of people that treat others like they're really something special.
Yeah. And you know, it's not about what you did nowadays. It's about what are you doing? Well, I just
Yeah.
you know,
That's
this quick
like-
flash.
But we're just having, you know, we just get to go out and make music and if we can go out and make music and make a living at it, that's just cool enough.
Isn't it a cool ride?
You know, but trying to, you know, if other things come, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And but I don't put a whole lot of major importance on it.
And that's why you're out riding motorcycles to this day. I know you are. Used to drag them motorcycles around. And don't let me forget to talk about Robin.
Yes,
And, you know,
she's
behind
awesome.
every great man, there's a greater woman.
Yeah, she's awesome.
And she was awesome back then. And, you know, I'd see her out at one of our either we opening for somebody or
Yeah.
me opening for you.
Yeah,
Hey, I'll, man, we just need to sit down and just talk.
yeah.
That way we can laugh. I don't think that our show could take what we really could tell you. But you're a God-fearing man. And, you know, I've had the Lord in my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much I needed him until I went through a heart episode.
Yeah.
And then
He's in the heart business.
yes, he is. But I really lean on him now. I'm with Boston Chris and ETX Rocks, and you know, we don't talk about it a lot, but we do talk about the fact that this is all part of his plan. It's part of his journey for us.
Yeah.
But I'm going to push back a lot of things I want to ask you, and I'm going to bring this up to date. You put out over 20 discs now, 20 collections of songs.
Yeah.
Tell me about your songs and stories. Is this a record or is this a show
Well,
that you're doing?
it's a bunch of things.
Is it?
It started off in 2000, I think it was. January of I guess it was late January 2000, 2001. Just for something to do during the winter months. For a couple of weeks, me and Robin and our piano player at the time, John Hall, we went out and did, 8 shows over 2 weeks. And a couple of promoters called, well, hey, we've heard some things about it. Could we book some shows? So we booked some more. And it started filling up our calendar with all these trio dates, you know, those songs that turned into this idea songs and stories. And we ought to record a night or two to see what we're doing, make sure it's making sense. That's what we recorded a few. It's like, ooh, we should really record them. So we went out and did a trip and with gear to record, and we recorded about 3 weeks worth of shows all over the country, and edited it together and made a 2-disc set called Songs and Stories.
Really?
And so that lived for a long time. And then people kept asking about, have any of the stories ever been written out? So Robin made a project one year to take the disc and listen and transcribe out the stories I would tell. And then I took them and tried to add to them and try to make it read. We tried to correct the grammar, but it was impossible. And
Didn't rhyme, did it?
And so it turned into this book. There'd be a story I'd tell, then the corresponding lyrics to the song that the story was about, and then pictures. And, there's everything from, there's a song, 40 Again, wishing my dad was 40 again. He would be young and I would be 10,
Yes.
There's a picture of me and my mom and dad when I was 10 years old. And then there's another story, I can't remember which one it was, but there's a picture of my brother on his tricycle and me standing behind him holding him, and just, kindergarten pictures,
Sure.
Stuff like that. And there's a story I tell about John Denver, and there's a collection of some things. There's an album, the Back Home Again album, that has Annie's song on it, which is my favorite John Denver song. There's a 45 of a song, a CD, a record he had signed, a 45 disc, and a T-shirt from the last show he did in Atlanta prior to his death. I bought it. Robin surprised me with tickets to that show, and I bought a T-shirt that night. And there's pictures of all that, and just tons. And it's like a big tour book.
Yeah.
Tons of beautiful, beautiful pictures. And then in the back of the book, there's a CD of the 10 songs that go with the 10 stories.
Fantastic.
And that's just been a huge deal. And then we did a Facebook Live on our back porch.
Yeah.
We started doing those sort of like weekly. Just me sitting back there playing a few songs.
Sure.
And the numbers were like, bing,
Yeah.
And so we started talking about doing a show on
Now
our
you
back
can't stop.
porch, and doing this and having a friend come over and sit on the back porch. And then somebody said, well, if the weather's bad or if it's so it turned into, so why don't we do it with an audience and make it have that energy.
Sure.
And so we went to Douglas Corner
Oh, in Nashville.
and did our first series of shows. We shot the whole series in a week, and we shot 3 shows a night for 4 nights.
Yep.
And
That's the way it works, folks.
and it was just it was a hoot. And,
gotta be.
But the story, the relevance of Douglas Corner, other than being a great singer-songwriter place.
Right.
In 1992, I was playing clubs in Athens, Georgia. Big Fish, Little Pond story. Making a ton of money, way too much money for that. And I was driving home 2 a.m, and this song comes on the radio by Joe Diffie called Ships That Don't Come In. Brand new song.
Beautiful voice, beautiful song.
I love Joe. And he sings, and those who stand on empty shores and spit against the wind, and those who wait forever for ships that don't come in. I felt like I'd been hit by a freight train.
Man.
Because I had dreamed bigger than being the big fish in the little pond of Athens, Georgia.
Yes, you certainly did.
But I had gotten real comfortable. I was making a lot of money. I was well known within 50 miles.
Right.
And but I got home and I woke Robin up and through tears told her what I was thinking, and we stayed up all night. And we developed a plan to go to Nashville every 6 weeks, send out the what do they call it? The showcase invitation list.
Yes, absolutely.
The 200 people on there, the top 200 people you want to come to
Right.
your showcase. Send out that list, invite people to come to it, and so we'd send out invitations, and we would we'd wait 2 weeks. 2 weeks before we'd do our showcase, wait 2 weeks to hear, then we'd start to cycle over again. Every 6 weeks we do that, and so we sent out 250 invitations. Did our first industry showcase May of 1992 at Douglas Corner.
Wow.
One guy shows up, Herky Williams.
From Texas.
Isn't
You
that
know,
right?
yeah, Herky was from Texas. Got up
right?
there when Ham bought.
Yeah.
Remember, we were
Yeah.
Cumberland for a while,
Yeah,
and then
Cumberland
went
music.
to Hamstein
Hamstein.
and
So-
Herky Williams.
So Herky shows up. Herky's sister had gone to University of Georgia,
Really?
and he and David Corlew
Yes.
had come to Athens to hear the Normaltown Flyers.
Wow.
And he said, you know what? My sister told me about this guy named John Berry. Let's go see John Berry while we're here.
Yeah.
They came by the club 3 times that night, and there was a line down the block. They couldn't get in. That piqued it. So when he got this little invitation, he made sure he was going to be there. So he came, and we had a few friends and family that were there, and the regulars that hit Douglas Corner.
Right.
But off the showcase list, one guy.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I was kind of, well, ding dang, you know.
Right.
But on the other hand, I was like, okay, I got one under my belt.
Yep.
It's no big deal. I can do this in 6 weeks. I'll be back.
And little did you know.
Well, little did I know that the next morning, Herky, we're already back in Athens. He calls me next morning and says, hey, Bowen wants to have brunch with you today. I'm like, dude, I'm back in Athens.
Right.
He goes, what? I said, we headed on home. So they set up a private showcase for Bowen, and Corlew was there, and Huey from CAA, and of course Herky, and I don't know if you remember Tom O'Grady, who was David Corlew's old partner.
I absolutely
passed
do.
away a number of years ago.
Man,
But Mr. O'Grady was. For your viewers that don't know him, he started off as a country store to country store snuff salesman, and ended up as and when he retired, he was the vice president of U.S. Tobacco.
Unreal.
Oh yeah,
unreal.
Serious dollarinis. So anyway, so we did this private showcase for Bowen, and we talked for a few minutes afterwards, and he said, "Well, I guess you came here looking for a record deal, didn't you, son?" I said, "Yes, sir, I did." He said, "Well, Corley, you want to manage him?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Call me tomorrow, let's work it out. Congratulations, son."
Isn't that incredible?
And he walked out of the room.
Everyone told me when Bowen's here, he'll get up and leave. Yes comes quick, no will never come.
Yeah.
And my guy said, he's coming towards the stage. And I was like, what? And I couldn't answer one of his questions because they're all, did you play rock and roll? And I didn't want to say, yeah. But similar to your story. And what a wonderful time to have that part of Jimmy Bowen.
Oh, yeah.
And not the rough and snappy cappy guy
that
he was.
I know a lot of people had derogatory things to say about Bowen and this, that, but I always enjoyed him.
I loved him to death. Never said goodbye.
Matter of fact, I was in Hawaii. I was flying back from Australia and met my wife in Hawaii for a couple of days, and he heard that I was in town through somebody else that know mutual friends.
Sure.
And he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, let's go to dinner." So we met up with them, went to dinner.
In Hawaii on a vacation.
In Hawaii, yeah, and just a nice, Ginger, his wife Ginger.
Yes.
Nice people, and and it's and this is and every now and then, I know it's show business, not show friends,
right?
But every now and then, we have friends. So
my friend
Bowen was a good guy, So.
Hey, I'm going to wrap this up by saying, your friendship is endless. Your personality has never changed. A lot of people love you. You got a lot of fans out there, and you sold a lot of records. And you have given me a big treat by spending this time with you.
Well, it's been fun having you here. When I got online and I was searching something, there was a message from someone I didn't know, and I opened it up and it said, Ricky Lynn's having some troubles.
Yeah.
And you're having some health issues. We went through a difficult time. And we reached out just to let you know that we were thinking of you and caring for you.
I got that.
And
thank you.
So, but we
because I know you believe in the Lord, and
we do. We serve a big God who's bigger than heart issues, and like I said before, he's in the heart business.
He's in the heart business.
And one of my greatest things I've always love about our Father and Creator is that He uses things to draw us to Him.
Amen.
All circumstances can be used for His glory, or for some other reason.
Yes.
And we can go through a situation like what you went through, and you can either be drawn to Him, or you can reject Him and be bitter about whatever happened to you physically or emotionally or whatever it might be. You drew closer.
My decision was easy.
So that's good.
Well, John, it's been a treat. I'll shake you one more time.
Awesome
I love
to be
you,
with you, my friend. And congratulations on getting to do this show. It's awesome.
Thank you. You've been with John Berry on the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show, brought to you by ETX ROCKS. Tune in and keep up with John through social media, and just realize we were buddies way back when.
Come on, we're still buddies.
We're still buddies, baby. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, so we are back. Once again, that was a John Berry interview by the one and only Ricky Lynn Gregg. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I thought it was very insightful.
It's great to get back with John, and we could have probably talked, if he'd had time, and of course our show had time, for 3 hours.
Oh, yeah.
We just skimmed over the top, and hopefully, and not hopefully, in the future, we'll do some other stuff, because we have stories.
Yeah.
Like when we first signed, we acted like we didn't know how to write songs, and we wrote with the best, and that's how you learn to write great songs. So,
yeah. And I think, maybe in the future we'll go out to their ranch or cabin or whatever.
I think they're going to have a get-together at Sean's, and that we've been invited.
We're almost honorary Berry family members now.
We are.
Maybe. Who knows?
I think it's
but
a gift.
Speaking of the Berry family, guys, y'all don't go anywhere. Right after this message from an independent artist, we're going to get into our one-on-one between Ricky Lynn and Sean Berry, John's son. And they're going to talk a little bit about Sean's new music and how it was growing up underneath the legendary John Berry's career. So y'all check it out.
Hey guys, this is Blaine Howard, and thanks for tuning in to ETX ROCKS.
Hi, I'm Ricky Lynn Gregg, and you just finished up watching an episode with longtime friend, fantastic songwriter and singer, sold over 10 million records. But here is his son, Sean. It's very nice to see you. Very nice to meet you.
Glad to be here.
We've just finished an episode with your father, and I just want to make this comment real quick. I knew you before I knew you. And I say that in the sense of one day I knew John and Robin, your mother.
Yeah.
The next time I see you guys, here comes a baby carriage, and it's you. Then it's your brother. I want to ask you this question because one would wonder, it's easy to be influenced by your father.
Oh, yeah.
But you've been on the road, you've been behind the scenes your whole life. How has that transpired for you, other than being inspired by your father? How has that come together and allowed you to be an entertainer?
I think it's just something that ever since I was a young kid, I just knew I had a calling towards
Sure.
it. Being brought up around music all the time, absolutely just instilled this passion for not only creating music, because I feel like I have to, but I love entertaining. I love getting to see people, and even though I might not ever know that person, sitting down there in the front row, but seeing them enjoy my craft is absolutely, it's one of the greatest treasures that I hold dear. So
now you've been on the road 24 years.
A little bit, yeah.
And here we are in Gladewater, Texas. And I grew up 3 miles down the road.
Yeah.
This is my home area. After my tenure in Nashville, I came back home for medical reasons, and here I am to stay because I forgot how wonderful this area is and how fruitful. You've got a single coming out.
I do.
And along with that, tell me about your record. Tell me about your single.
Yeah, so we ended up cutting in Nashville at Welcome to 1979, and I'm real excited for it because the entire record was cut on tape.
Wow.
And
no digital.
No digital. They ended up doing some of the vocals on digital, but they ended up, when they do the final masters,
no transfer.
Yep.
Just straight through.
It'll be straight through.
Wow.
And
warm.
Yeah, it gives it this organic, raw sound that you can't capture from different players in different rooms.
A recreation of sound.
Yeah, exactly. And so we really tried to capture the sound of a live band. Just like they did back in 1979.
Absolutely.
So I'm really excited about it. The single we're going to release is Wildfire. It's also the title track.
And you'll be performing today, right?
I'll be playing it tonight, and it's one of those songs. It's a pretty heartfelt song, and it can pretty much grip you. Well,
let me tie you into this. You married at this fine establishment Tim's daughter.
I did.
And I won't let this out to East Texas too much, but you are East Texan now, of some sorts.
I am.
And I'm just blown away by that. Simply for the fact that me and Boston Chris think there's some kind of vortex around this area that just migrates mothers and fathers to recreate people like yourself. Because your grandfather was into Van Cliburn, who's from Kilgore.
Yeah.
And probably won the most prestigious award from the Russians at a time when Cold War and Russians in America didn't like each other. But you think about that, you think about where you're at. And of course, I met Tim today, and I can't wait to sit down and talk with him a while. But do you like this East Texas area? Are you feeling at home with it?
Absolutely. I grew up in a small town just outside of Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
And I lived in Nashville when I was younger, when my dad was really driving his career.
Right.
And but then I moved back in 2014 and lived there for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it, and but I just never felt at home, and I also never felt like my music, the stuff that I was writing, fit the Nashville, prescription, I guess.
They sort of lost it too, didn't they?
A little bit, and I enjoy. I've got some friends that live in Nashville, and they're putting out great music.
Absolutely, nice.
But I think my flavor of country music really fit the Texas music scene, and on top of that too, it's just I'm a small town guy.
There you go.
And I just never, like I said, felt at home living in Nashville. and so absolutely living in East Texas, the greatest people in the world out here, and I just enjoy living in a small town, being able to create good music, and play at these fun smaller venues. It's a good time.
Well, they lead into something bigger, don't they?
Absolutely.
Well, Sean, I want to wish you the best. I love your father and mother from years ago, and it's so nice to have you here in East Texas. And here it is. I have my own show, sponsored by ETX ROCKS, my buddy Boston Chris, and now you're an East Texan.
Oh, yeah.
I hope this is the first of many conversations that we'll have on this show.
Oh, I'm sure.
I want to encourage the people to get behind Sean. He's got a new record out. Seek it, find it. I think you'll be impressed. As Sean said earlier, he's into this Texas sound. He lives in Texas now. I think you'll be blown away. I know I am. Sean, when can we expect this record to come out?
So we're looking to actually release a single in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then the full length album. We ended up cutting 7 songs.
Okay.
So we'll probably release it somewhere middle to end of May.
Okay.
And we're doing a Kickstarter to fund it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to donate, there's tons of awesome packages on there. So you'll get prizes for every time you donate. Whether it's just a CD, signed CD, T-shirts, hats, private concert, whatever, it's all on there. You can find it on my Facebook page. So
what a wild and unique way to do something like this.
Absolutely.
You can find a link to Sean's Kickstarter in the description below. Sean, thank you so much.
Hey, I'm glad that you took the time to talk to me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to be with me here on the RLG show, and brought to you by ETX ROCKS.
Okay, so we are back. You've been watching the second episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. You've just been watching a great conversation between Ricky and Sean Barry about his upcoming album. Again, we're going to put the link to his Kickstarter program in the description below. You guys just click on that link, send a little bit of money over to Sean, and help him get his music out there to the masses. I think you guys will enjoy that, and I think just by donating to his cause, you might be able to pick up some cool merch, maybe a copy of the album. I think they have different programs or different levels in his Kickstarter that you guys can donate to. So just click on the link, check it out, send a little money Sean's way, help him get the music out.
Very important.
So we are into the Ask Ricky, Ask Boston segment, but before we get to the questions, and we have some great questions for Ricky from you guys out there, his fans, what have you been up to lately, man?
As you and I talked, and talking about putting this show together, I was very interested in giving back to the community.
Yeah.
It's always easy to be booked and come into a town and take people's money.
Right.
And pretty soon you feel like I want to play for free. But since I'm unable to sing and play at this moment, it's very important for me to do anything that I can for organizations that need money, like for Cancer, Heart Association, arthritis, a number of things that people overlook. And I want to put this out there. Be aware of your body. Listen to it. Go get your checkups. Check on your heart. Check on things. Let them prod you and all that kind of stuff. It's important to longevity in life.
Just make sure they're doctors and not aliens.
Well,
first.
I mean, come on now. I like the aliens too. Last night, my Facebook manager, Sharon Rhymes, down from Ohio, we attended the Relay for Life Cancer Benefit. And a way to give back to the community. And it was very beautiful. Marshall Civic Center. Ran into a lot of people I hadn't seen in a long time. And I think gratifying for me was people were thanking me for being there, and I was thanking them for having me. Raising money nowadays is a hard thing to do because money's thin. But this, Boston Chris, is something I've done before a few years ago. It's growing, but the main thing is they say, donate a penny. Man, a dime, a nickel, $1, $10,000. This ain't a fraud or a crook. They spend the money on their own, like a lot of rogue people
and
do.
what was the name of the organization
It's
again?
Relay for Life. And they had it downtown years ago, but downtown Marshall now is kind of getting convoluted with cars and restaurants. So they had it at the Civic Center. Firemen
Ricky
dressed
Lynn,
up.
that was a big word, convoluted, man. It's Saturday afternoon, y'all.
And he ain't been asleep and I ain't been
That's
awake.
like a Tuesday night word.
And like I said, he ain't been asleep and I ain't been awake.
Yeah.
But back to this, we spent we gave away T-shirts, anything, or sold T-shirts for them. Donated our money for my product and our swag, and it's gratifying
Ricky
for
Lynn
us.
has swag.
Well, I have swagger. Swag. Do y'all know what swag is, or what else they call it? Swag and
Merch.
That means you got stuff.
Yeah.
So we sold our stuff, and then we shook hands, took pictures, and it's good. So if you can get involved in those kind of things, and want to take an outing with your children, get involved somewhere. You don't have to do them all, but get involved and take care of your health, most importantly.
And of course, we also recently, the two of us, walked around the Truman W. Smith
We did.
Children's Care Center, where
We did.
the ETX ROCKS Show has an outreach program
Yes.
every Monday, and Ricky came out and met the kids,
Yes.
and the
Beautiful.
staff out there. What was that day like for you?
Well, you know, I had a double booking,
Yeah.
so I beat it over as quick as I could. You had to go, and I actually spent more time with the children
Yeah.
as they had calmed down.
Right.
And hit every room. These children they're special, and they're not in a special needs place. They're special. They have unique abilities to not be able to maybe take care of themselves in the way that we can.
Right.
But the smiles on their faces are genuine. You
It was a cool thing,
You can
man.
tell there's nothing negative in their life, and I'm looking forward to going again. And
Yeah.
when I'm able to perform, because they love it all, and rhythm is something that all brings them together.
Yeah.
Music, and it's something that you should do also. If you don't have anything to do on a Sunday, go see these places and talk to the director, and just you showing up as you thrills them. You don't
Yeah.
have to be a singer.
And so we do that program every Monday afternoon from 4 to 5, and it's completely unplugged. So if you're a musician out there, an artist, you don't have to be an original artist. Just if you play music and you
Yeah.
have an hour, like come out on a Monday, just contact us at etxrocks@gmail.com. We'll get you on the schedule.
Yeah.
We've been doing this program since September of 2017, and just the difference in these kids from the time when we first started bringing music there till now. It's just life-altering,
Yeah.
man. It's cool to see not just the smiles, but the development growth
Yes.
in these kids from week to week as
Yes.
they're exposed to music, which they're not, able to hear
Yeah.
or see outside of their walls. So
And their stories
yes,
there won't be a dry,
yeah.
and it's amazing.
It's just a cool thing that we get to do. We've named it after our buddy Matt Gansel, who passed away earlier this year. Just an incredible KYKX DJ and a mentor of mine. So, and he was just a huge believer in the program when we started it. So, I thought that was a cool thing to keep his name alive as well on something that we were doing. And but anyway, moving on.
Can I tell you something that I did a couple of weeks ago?
Sure. Yeah.
I've really taken this serious, and about being a correspondent, a host. This is really good. So I went down to the Natchitoches Jazz.
That's a
and
hard word to
Blues.
say. Even harder to spell.
Well, I ate one too while I was there.
Yeah.
But along with a Cupa and a cup of coffee.
you saw a chupacabra?
Yeah, I ate one and had a
okay.
cup of coffee. But
Y'all heard it here first. Aliens and chupacabras right here
Yes.
on the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
But anyway, after all that eating and getting all the hair, well, I don't have hair, but it was bone. We went.
He was the goat sucker.
I went to Natchitoches and saw the Jazz and Rhythm and Blues Festival. Rick Derringer was there.
Wow.
Ohio players blew me down, sounded just like the record. And of course, Mickey Thomas and Starship were there. Loudest thing I'd heard since the train horn went off behind the house here. But the great Mickey Thomas
We don't
was
even
there.
have a train here, guys.
That's
I
what I
don't know
mean.
what he's hearing, but
Well, that's coming from Hallsville, actually.
oh, okay.
But Mickey sounded great as always, but he had a look-alike young Grace Slick. Now imagine that. Grace, when she was older, was Grace.
Yeah.
But when she was young, she was hot. This had to be her granddaughter. And she could sing tenor to a bird whistle. And I enjoyed it, but my fave out of all of it, and I know Rick Derringer, was Ohio players.
Yeah.
Let's get the funk. And
How badly did you want to get up there
Oh
and
man, I
play?
had a broke back and I was like doing one arm, like yeah.
Yeah.
Because we in Longview, when I was 15, it was the average white band and everything was. So we played funk
Yeah.
way more than country or rock. So for me, it was like, oh my God, hit after hit.
Yeah.
And they were into the groove. The background vocals were impeccable, and they said there's no computers on the stage.
Yeah.
And man, it was awesome.
Sounds like it was a great time.
It's a yearly thing. If you want to do something about this time of year, check into the Natchitoches events calendar, and this one is something you don't want to miss.
Yeah, so this is an
If you got a
annual
card.
thing. It's an annual thing they do down
Annual
there.
thing.
Cool. Sounds like you had a good time out there.
I had a great time. I had governors. I was blessed with a seat right eye level, right there, and it was just beautiful.
Cool. And so, guys, this is we've transformed into the scary portion of the show. This is when he asks me questions, and he likes to tease me about this for the month between episodes, and he's always like, so I'm going to ask you this question. It's nope, don't have to wait.
All right. As Boston said, this is where Ricky asked Boston. So my first question is, Boston, just hours ago, you were in Fort Worth, Texas. You just got in. Now we're doing our show. Tell us about what you did last night in Fort Worth.
Man, yeah, so you guys might know if you've been following along with the ETX ROCKS Show, we have a really good friend named Rob Redwine, who I believe is the best songwriter in Texas, by the way. And that's all-inclusive. I don't think there's anybody as good as Rob Redwine. Just my own personal opinion. Take that for what it's worth. But Rob is just a genuine human being, incredible lyricist, and he writes books, too. So this is his second book. It's called Broken Heart, The Life and Lyrics of Rob Redwine. And when this was on its way to being published, he sent me a couple of chapters of this to read, and he wanted me to review it.
Yeah.
Okay? So I was like, okay, this is a pretty neat thing, you know, and I'm not a writer, so I don't particularly like reviewing stuff, especially when I have to write it out. So I read the 2 chapters. They were great, and I wrote a review, and he put it on the back cover of the book.
Really?
Yeah.
That's bad to the bone, buddy.
So on the back cover it says, for years, Rob Redwine has been taking us on a lyrical journey 3 minutes at a time. Now, in his new book, Broken Heart, The Life and Lyrics of Rob Redwine, we get a more in-depth look at his brilliant mind, and it is a cozy place to be. Boston Chris, the ETX ROCKS Show.
Well said.
So that's forever on the book. And
well said.
Last night was his book release party in Fort Worth at the Whiskey Girl Saloon. And Rob has come out here twice to do our show. He's, always made time for us and drove from Fort Worth to come see us. So I figured it was the very least that we could do was to make sure that we were in attendance for a big night for him like that. So we made sure we were there, basically. That's what Fort Worth
And I know
is
you were
about.
excited to see everything around, but like you
Yeah.
said today, and the beautiful thing about Boston Chris, he's committed. And he committed to the show and got a lot more ideas to go back and see other things, but
Yeah.
you were committed to his show because he is that brilliant.
Yeah, and the cool thing is the way he set up this party, this lineup of music. You guys might know that I'm a huge fan of Fort Worth, man. There's just so much talent
Cowtown.
out there, man. There's so many good songwriters out there, from Hannah Owens, Simone Nicole, Cammie Mackey, Skylar Payne. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And it just so happened that 4 of my favorite artists were going to be on the same show with Rob Redwine, my favorite songwriter. So it's like, this is a no-brainer. Like, I want to go there and support my friend. And on top of that, I'm going to get to hear amazing original music all day long. So yeah, we left here at 2:30 yesterday afternoon for a 7 o'clock, what we thought was a 7 o'clock show. It actually started around 9 musicians. But
Right.
yeah, so we got there
yes.
and we had a great time, and really the best part of the whole night was just meeting new people and seeing that we have fans out there.
And accepted. They
Yeah,
accepted
it was
you.
just great. There were a couple of
Offers?
people that knew who we were.
I mean,
Yeah,
everybody
we're looking at possibly doing one of our live acoustic shows out there in the stockyards, the world famous stockyards.
There's too much energy behind this man and the show. It'll happen.
I hope so, man. We're definitely looking forward to maybe opening some new doors in Cowtown.
Well, and I spent the great part of my early life in Cowtown, and I agree with you. Cowtown is full of the best musicians.
Yeah.
Rusty Burns being one of the best.
Oh man.
Second part of my question is, I came on your show. I promised you an interview to let you know my shortcomings in life and how I've corrected myself and Boston Chris keeps me in check, of course, because we're best friends. But I know how some people can stay awake. But Boston, do you ever sleep?
There's a rumor that goes around that I do sleep sometimes.
Sometimes.
And I'll be honest, my beautiful fiance Louise, who's also the producer of all of our content and shows and everything that we do, the behind-the-scenes genius of the ETX ROCKS Show, for sure. I think she gets frustrated because we're like two ships just kind of passing in the night sometimes. You know, she'll be waking up just as I'm going to bed, and vice versa. So I think that there's a bit of frustration there.
Part of that external passion.
Yeah.
Passion for this.
Well, you know, for me, it's like after midnight, I can get a lot done.
Yeah. Things are quiet.
There's a lot less distraction. There's a lot less noise.
Yeah.
And I'm not even talking about distraction within my own house. I'm talking about distraction from outside the walls of here. You know, whether it's emails or messages or all of that, you know, social media dings, which is what I call them, notifications. So, you know, after midnight, things quiet down. I don't have to quite check all of that quite as much. So usually what I do is I'll get into a zone where I'm multitasking, which Louise doesn't know how I do it, but I'll be watching a show on Hulu while doing post-production on an episode, while playing Candy Crush on my phone.
And watching a Boston Red Sox game.
Well, if they happen to be on, but yeah, I do all of these things.
I love his passion for all those things, because we have all that in common.
Yeah. But no, man, sleep is something that we'll get to do when things are over.
You're right. And I've been asleep for several days for the wrong reasons, and trust me, when you wake up, you really don't want to sleep.
Yeah.
So I
just
admire
today, as
that.
an example, you know, we got in from Fort Worth around, I guess it was 4:45 this morning.
And I woke you up at 2.
Yeah, it was. Well, I was awake when you got here, actually.
Oh, were you really?
Yeah, I had a 2 o'clock wake-up call today.
Good.
So I was already awake when you got here.
Well, that's interesting. Now, here you are, and what is amazing in our off-camera conversations, you have a whole lineup of people that you've been introduced to or seen. This show, not this particular show, and I'm sure a lot of it is, but ETX ROCKS and Boston Chris has a lot more of just fantastic talent that's coming out of the carpet and the woodwork and the sky and the trees and leaves. Are you excited about just the overwhelming amount of talent that you found yourself? Boston Chris found.
It's so stupid, man. Like, when we started this, it was just a way to try to have a platform for people to tell their stories.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, as a music fan, when I go to a show, you know, I'll hear a lyric or a riff or whatever it may be, something minor within the music as a fan at a show, and I would get to wondering, like, man, where was he at when he came up with that? Like, what was running through his mind? Why did he do that? You know, and maybe I'm part of the minority there. I don't know. I'm hoping not. But those things, those kind of conversations within my own head, wondering where something came from and what kind of place were they in. Like, how many times have you gone to a show and you're like, man, that was dark. That was a dark lyric. Man, I wonder where he was at when he wrote that.
Right.
Well, that's kind of what we do with this show.
I want to tell you this. This question comes from Miss Sharon Ryan. In our first show, you had mentioned, or I'd mentioned the word riff. A riff, to people who don't know a riff, unless you're a player, can be that's a riff, and that caught me. And so that's a riff, and a riff goes along with a lyric and a melody, and those combinations and what they lay within the beat of a song captivates you.
And when
I think that's what you love.
Yeah, when it's lined up, it's just pure magic.
Lined up.
You know, when it's
sync
lined up. I mean, a lot of times you can have a riff that never, ever, it never marries a lyric. Yeah. You know, like it's fighting with a lyric.
It doesn't start one way and end up going somewhere else. You know, like the Holly song, Long Cool Woman in the black dress starts one way and goes to another. You're going, Took me a while to get
sometimes it just doesn't line up, and that can be magic too.
Yeah.
It just depends on where the artist is going.
Beatles songs.
Yeah. Beatles songs.
Love them.
Yeah, because a lot of times their lyrics didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, the lyrics were just window dressing.
They're
for the
exactly
Beatles
like scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
All my trouble. That's how that song started.
That was the original song title. For
They call them working titles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to lose that ba-de-da.
Of course, McCartney wrote that song when he was sleeping. Imagine that. Look that up, guys. The song Yesterday, which, by the way, if you didn't know, is the most covered song in the history of music.
Is it really?
Yes. That song has been published by more recording artists than any other song.
Beautiful.
That song was written while Paul McCartney was asleep.
And
he woke up with the melody in his head.
See, and when you want to capture the melody, it's triplet, triplet, quadruplet, scrambled eggs. So what I use for that? Yesterday, you know. So that's sometime how a song is built.
Yeah, and he sat on the song for 3 years. Wow. Because he wanted to make sure that it wasn't an actual song already. Because he woke up with the melody in his head.
Yeah.
You know, so he didn't want to write a song that he'd maybe heard somewhere the night before.
Muse.
Yeah.
You got it.
So he waited 3 years and he looked for it, and he said, you know what? I haven't heard anything else that's close to this. Mm-hmm. And it's such a simple song with simple lyrics and a simple melody. And it's taken the world by storm.
But driven and deep.
Yeah, oh man.
I said, la, da, 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 da. Oh man, that.
And that's where the Beatles took you, man. You know,
it was.
And that all starts with the music. You know, the lyrics came later. I would imagine. I've obviously never interviewed Paul McCartney. Paul, have your people call my people.
Yes.
My people being me.
But you're onto something there. A great songwriter. A lot of times their songs write themselves.
Yeah.
Because they've lived it.
Yeah. And I've heard from many, many different songwriters that they almost feel like a conduit. You know, like the songs are coming out of the sky and they just come through and they travel from the brain right down their arms, out through their fingers. And of course, then I've heard stories from dozens of other songwriters that they struggle, you know, to get a song from their brain to their fingers. And the songs, a lot of times, are really good both ways. But yeah.
Well, my last question is, how are those Boston Red Sox going to do this year, in your opinion?
All right, so I was figuring that the Boston Red Sox would be...
and the record right now is...
well, it depends on how the game's going right now, as we speak.
Is it in the middle of the road? Because, you know, I've seen them do some magic.
They're not middle of the road right now. They're not performing... Okay, so they started the year off with a loss in the first game that they should have won. Go figure, right? Yeah. Then they won the next 9, I think.
They got on a streak there,
and
man.
So then they lost a game, then they won the next 7 after that. So they started 17-2.
Yeah, they was phenomenal.
Yeah, which is the best start in the history of the franchise, by the way. Right now they're 19-6. They're losing 5-4 right now.
But 19-6 is pretty dang good,
But when
Boston.
you start 17-2 and now you're 19-6, now the Red Sox fan in me says, "Wow, man, 19-6 is pretty fantastic."
If they would only let them use steroids.
But they were 17-2, which means they're 2-4 in their last 6 games. So that's the fan in me, right?
Right.
They've only won 2 of the last 6 games.
Well, do you believe that a true professional gamer, baseball player, football player, the essence in them, and they have to pace themselves, of course, right? But do you believe at the very end they'll hit that stride where that one year when they just come back and just blew everybody away?
The Red Sox?
Red Sox. You think is that part of what you think baseball is? Because you're a really big baseball fan.
Yeah, baseball's tough to predict.
Yeah, because it's long. It's so long.
Well, yeah, it's long, and there's like segments to the season. I mean, there's segments within a game, really, honestly.
You're doing series.
Yeah, you know, but I think they have young talent. They're really young.
Yeah.
I think they have great pitching, which is important.
Yeah.
But I also think they're susceptible to injury. Just a feeling. I don't have any data to back that up. But I think if the Red Sox stay healthy this year, I think at the very least they'll be in the playoffs.
Well, why did you hit me the other day when I happened to say Buckner? I'm still trying to... I lost a tooth over that.
This name is not allowed in my house.
We'll leave it at that, folks.
Yeah. All right, Ricky Lynn Gregg.
That's me.
So you got to ask me some questions. Okay. They were easy ones this week, too, so thank you for that.
Well, I wouldn't... People, they want to know these things.
Yeah, I don't think that was a true statement. But
it is. This man's a genius.
But we do have some fan questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you for that statement.
Well, that's true.
But we do have some great fan questions, and the questions we have this month for you are really good questions, actually. And I'm interested in knowing the answers to these. So the first one is from Carrie Arnold Sadler.
I know Carrie. I think I might have met her once or twice.
She was out there last night, right?
We had breakfast together this morning.
Okay.
She's a great singer, by the way. She's
Really?
my favorite local singer because she does "If You Ever Boom 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 Change Your Mind." And see, man, I love that soul, and I get right under
All
it.
right, so you're trying to get away from the question.
No,
that
Carrie,
has.
I barely know her. What is her question?
All right, the question is, when you're listening to songs,
Yes.
now she's talking about demos or prospective
Yes,
songs that
okay.
you're thinking about putting on an album.
Yeah.
Does the melody appeal to you first, or does the lyrics appeal to you first?
Lyrics.
Yeah. And why is that?
Because back when I was being plugged songs to make the records on Capitol Liberty, they were all kind of good. So what I did was I made 3 categories: an asterisk, a star, asterisk, and an X. That way, if I hear them again on the next record, I've already made a list of how good I
Determination
yeah.
or whatever.
It starts out great, going, God, man, this is so cool, man. It's all right. And it goes, yeah, sell your sister to the dime store. You know, and you go, what? The nickel and dime store? Okay, next. That's how quick it can go by.
Yeah.
But if it starts out kind of, okay, I'm a normal intro, and all of a sudden it goes, how much I need you in my life. You go, keep on.
Yeah.
So
you're basically what's the process like for this? Are you,
well, the third process of that is, have I lived it?
yeah.
Sammy Kershaw told me, he says, man, don't ever record a song that you didn't live.
Right.
And that's been my mantra. And so very important when people pick songs, because the song belongs to the singer, because we have so many great songwriters that don't know how to perform.
Yeah.
And it's not that they don't, they just never learn that skill.
Yeah.
So you have to get into that song as if it is yours only.
Yeah.
And I would call that original music also. You don't have to just write it. You have to find it.
Yeah, well, you have to live it too on stage.
And
so.
you have to live it. And when you live it, Barry Beckett taught me, deliver it.
Yeah.
And then when you deliver it, it transcends from it.
So what's the process like for Ricky Lynn Gregg when you're going through these songs? Are you just, I'm picturing you at a table just listening to song after song after song. Was it like that? Or?
In plugging, what you do, you line it up by time, and you go in, and it's your producer, it's you, or it's your producer, you, and a plugger. We'd bring in pluggers from different publishing companies.
Okay.
And we'd ask them to bring just the X amount, their top shelf. Because I was on a top shelf label, John, we all got the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They encouraged us to write with the best writers.
Yeah.
And him and I did write with the best, Garth Brooks' writers and all those people. But what you were looking for in the process was something that went along with I was a country rocker.
Yeah.
I was kind of stood alone out there. So it had to have an edge to it, like I let my guitar do the talking. Ding, 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 ding. I knew right then when that beat was happening. I liked that kind of Cajun zydeco thing.
Yeah.
Let's hear the words. I was standing there, oh, I got it next. That's how long. It's about that long. If you're writing it and it takes you all day to write it, you ain't got a song.
Right.
And because they tell you, and John will tell you in our interview, that we go in with 99% inspiration and 1% perspiration, and the publisher comes in and goes, hey boys, I need this song, and forget this inspiration stuff. It's 99% perspiration, and the rest of the story.
So then you end up with some sweaty songs.
You end up with a lot of songs that you never ever want to look at again.
Yeah.
And it is a process of passion that you have. And the number one thing, the two things that always got me in every song, whether it be country, rock, ballads, is if it gave me chill bumps or made me cry. And that's one thing music does to me. I heard a song last night, and I'm in IHOP, and I'm crying. So I'll start crying right now because this song.
It's going to be the next episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. It's going to be Tears from IHOP with Ricky Lynn Gregg.
I'm telling you, I'm kind of going through it. But I could cry about this song because it was, humans can say they love you. Do they make you feel that they love you? Well, but, when it comes to something spiritual, there's no doubt where those words come in. Like I say, I'm holding back tears just from the memory of how I felt that song made me feel.
Yeah. That's cool. So, good question, Kerry. I hope you'll have more in the future. That was a really good one. All right, next one is from Mama Barnes,
Oh,
who may or may not be in the room. Okay, so she wants to know where you grew up and do you have good childhood memories?
do I have to be honest?
It's your show.
You know, my mother had sons out
I mean,
there,
you
know.
remind me that all the time.
I did. And, since it's my show, and I guess I'll tell the truth, I'm not left-handed, if anybody didn't notice. So, childhood for me,
Where'd you grow up first?
I grew up in 208 Ekman Street, right off High Street in Nelson, downtown Lawton.
Okay.
My father worked for Lone Star Gas, worked the graveyard shift, but he was a farmer in the daytime. My brothers, they worked hard, but they left before I was 7, 8 years old.
Yeah, you
so
were the baby, right?
I was the youngest.
He was the baby.
Youngest. Anyway, 17, 15, 13, 10, I was the oldest in my litter. But anyway, my brothers wouldn't allow me to. See, that's the thing. My brothers wouldn't allow me to be the baby.
Right.
You know, mom's not going to dote over you. Get your. But I learned a lot from them, and as much as they think that I have been this or that, I learned a lot from just things they would say. If a subject makes your stomach hurt, Ricky, go take care of it now. If you get a flat tire, don't be the last one out of the car. I was a born leader. I learned to be a leader through them.
Wow.
Even though I may loathe them for their lack of ability to be fatherly, I learned a lot. The idea of being out in the country, 6 or 7 years old, and I'm out there, I got to use my imagination, at a young age, look in the sky and see things. But I think a wonderful thing in Longview, Texas, and people around here would know, when I was up until probably a year out of high school, the television went off at midnight. Well, it's one of the first songs I wrote right before I went to Saturday. When the lights go out at midnight, I'll think about you, I want to hold you. If the TV hadn't gone out, I never wrote that song. And it never would have ran like it did on 96X in 1979.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So, I had a song running. It was reported. I got $4 or $5 every quarter.
So overall, would you say it was a good childhood for Ricky Lynn Gregg?
It was a good childhood because I had a brother that said, stay out of the yard, you'll get hurt. Here's your guitar. Don't leave this room. Here's the 3 chords. Now, when I come back, learn how to change it. And then I hear him coming, I'm like, let me see what you've done. I do it.
Wow.
Well, now I'm older now.
Yeah.
I'm tired of just doing that. I get in front of the mirror. And I learn how to get after it, boy.
Yeah.
And then I began to go to concerts. And then I would see Tom Johnson, or I'd see Johnny Winter, I would see ZZ Top. And I would take the way they did their shows. Because that's all I've been doing is playing guitar.
Yeah.
So it was a good childhood in the fact that my mother loved me, my father loved me, and my brothers never gave me an attaboy because they wanted me to try to be my best.
Cool. Very neat. Good question, Mama Barnes.
Mama Barnes.
Wherever you might be.
She's in Barnesville.
All right, so this is from Dennis Miller, who is
Dennis Miller, yes.
a local musician as well. Now, he says as a youngster, he got a lot of his influences watching the Midnight Special on Friday night.
Yes.
And that, plus before that, around 6 years old, everyone would gather at his uncle's house in the Smoky Mountains. Now, he had a huge living room, and everyone made a circle playing guitars, banjos, fiddles, and his uncle played a stand-up bass. He wants to know what are some of your early influences.
Well, right off the bat, I'll tell you what I remember. A monophonic from Sears, gray, one speaker. Hank Williams' greatest hits.
Now we're talking senior here, right?
Senior.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash live in Folsom Prison.
Wow.
And Charlie Pride. That's the only 3 records we had. So I played them over and over and over and over and over, and all of a sudden my brother comes in with a stereo. So I banged it out by the time I was 12 and learned to play bass in my brother's band. And then he gave me a little segment where, when you're 12 years old and you're playing in front of adults, you can't follow a 12-year-old, okay?
Right, yeah.
But when the Midnight Special came on, That was our first CMT. That's the first time we got to see what they did, how they looked, and how they, you know, the way you perform it. It's the performance. Barry Beckett said, "Just perform it for me. I'll make it right." And Midnight Special was the best. Now on Saturday we had Don Kirshner's rock concert, and it was raw. I mean, it was a concert. And I'm on a shameless plug here. I was in Pittsburgh, walked in, turned the TV on, and I was on Don Kirshner's country series.
Wow.
Which kind of blew me away, you know. But early on,
At that time, you didn't even consider yourself country.
well, I never was a country guy. I was a country rocker, and that's why Jimmy Boyd signed me for what they're doing today. Except me and Rusty Burns played the guitar, and our keyboard player played the keyboards, and drummer played the drums. We were one of the last bands. Of course, we had other guys like Brent Rowan and Brent Mason and Glenn Worf on bass, award winners, and Michael Rhodes on bass. All these great, great players we got to augment our sound with. But Midnight Special, I'd say, really changed my life because I saw Johnny Winter and I said, I'm going to do that for the rest of my life.
Cool.
And I remember my brother going, what are you going to do when you grow up? We need to talk about this. And I just was paid $10 from a little 20-minute segment at AA Arena. We rode horses as kids, or I saddled them. And he gave me $10. And my brother took it out of his hand and said, no, don't give us 10. And he goes, no, Dennis, that boy earned it. And he gets in the truck, and I said, I'm going to be a musician. And it became a problem with the brothers. So wanted me to go to college and be a working Eastman.
Yeah.
That's a joke.
All right, so last question for Ricky Lynn Gregg comes from our mutual friend, soundman Phil Westmoreland.
Oh, my... Phil, how you doing, buddy?
I could not put his question in. He wants to know what it was like producing those CMT videos, what you know, on set. And all
Let me
that
say this
stuff.
about Phil. Phil and I, our relationship's like this, but there's no person on earth that can sing as good as you can, harmonies, and knows every Ricky Lynn Gregg song there is.
Yep.
So thank you, Phil. And I used to bring him out to the oil well club, excuse me, and I just get him to sing backups, and he did an impeccable job.
He's just a great guy, too.
Yeah. To produce, I mean, at first I did the Cheating Heart video, and they hired somebody out of L.A. And the edits were like bing, 2, 3, 2, 3, bing, 3, 2, 3, bing, ding, 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 bing, ding, bing. Okay, if you don't understand what I just did, I edited in quick timing. Jimmy Boylan looked at it at 10 o'clock at night and said, $100,000 down the drain, redo it.
Wow.
So Billy Ray hired Mark Ball. That means it's live, and we had about 2,000 people at Cowboys, and Mark Ball was all about sparklers and that kind of thing, and that's the kind of video we shot. It was extremely exciting. There were our fans. We did it in Dallas. The thing was, they put makeup on me, and I looked like a girl. And that day on, I've done 12 or more videos. I said, I'm doing my own makeup, and I just need powder, just not shine. And you know, I would get in an argument with the makeup person. I go, well, go talk to Bowen, and they go, that's what he wants to do. Let him do it. But the thrill of doing a video is great, except when you shoot a music video back in the time that I did, they lasted for 14 straight hours. So you go out, shoot a segment of it, they go sit in the bus, and you sit there and kind of cool down, and you come alive again.
Yeah.
So you did what you had to do to get back up. And of course, I have hyperhidrosis. I sweat. So if it was in a studio, it had to be 42 degrees.
Yeah.
Everybody had parkas on. Get a little closer, I did out on the hills of Albuquerque. It was about 19. Everybody had parkas on except me. I just had a button-down shirt. And the poor girl from Australia who was part of the video, she was about to freeze. She had these things sticking out of her shirt, this far, it looked like drumsticks or something. I don't know what it was. But her poor self.
That's weird.
I know. Her poor self, I felt for her. And I'd say, are you cold? And I got an extra coat just to put around her in between shots.
Yeah.
But as it goes on, man, it's like anything. It becomes second nature. You learn when to take it easy. You're not at the first couple. You're always for 14 hours. You're just on point. And after 14 hours, you go home. You sleep for about 14 days. But after sooner or later, you become comfortable. Like I hope I'm becoming more comfortable with your show and being a co-host.
Yep. Or host.
or server,
Yeah. I love sherbet, especially pineapple.
But thanks, Phil. That's a good question. Videos used to be $150,000. Now with technology, they're $6,000 to $10,000.
Yeah.
And look 18 times better.
Yeah, I could film one for nothing. In fact, I'm doing that right now.
Wait a minute. Give me my change back from that wooden nickel.
Yeah, we have like 42 wooden nickels in there from Ricky. I think they paid him in that.
In my life, there is change for wooden nickels.
Yeah, true.
I've been getting them here recently.
So that was Ask Ricky. We asked, I think, 4 questions there. And if you guys want your question asked on a future episode of the show, you can email your questions to etxrocks@gmail.com and just put Ricky Lynn Gregg Show in the subject line of that. And we'll collect these questions and we'll ask them on future shows. And speaking of our next show, now this one is our May episode of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. This is featuring John Berry and his son Sean. Really excited about getting to work with Ricky and seeing where this project takes us. I think our June episode is going to feature a band out of Greenville, Texas, named Two Gun Hattie. Amanda Graves and Gary Moore are going to be here with Ricky, and Ricky's going to get to meet them for the first time.
Very big, very big.
And they're very cool, very just polished harmonies, and just a great band from Northeast Texas. And I think Ricky's going to meet them for the first time. Amanda's a big fan of Ricky's.
But their music speaks for itself.
Yeah.
When you get people talking about it, you can't wait to hear it, so I'm excited.
Yeah, and we're going to maybe for the first time on the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show have live music.
That's when I after the show I was going to talk to you about that because you mentioned it last time. And we're going to even expand more of that in the future.
Yep.
And maybe even have a couple of people in our audience.
Yeah. We might have some audience members come watch the show.
For the right price.
Yeah. So this has been episode 2 of the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show with the one and only Ricky Lynn Gregg and myself, Boston Chris. Again, really excited about this project. Two Gun Hattie coming in June. Looking forward to that. You can watch all of these episodes on the ETX ROCKS Show's YouTube channel, which you can find right there. Just search for ETX ROCKS on there. Hit the subscribe button. That'll make sure that you're notified every time we drop one of these episodes for Ricky. Every single time you'll get an email notification, and you'll be notified up to 12-15 hours before we even tell anybody that it's out. And that's because I sleep during the day.
I stay up during the day.
Yeah. So make sure you're doing that. Subscription really helps us out, lets us know that you guys like what we're doing out there. And share. Every time we put one of these out, share it. We're not on network TV or anything. This is going to be predominantly a YouTube show.
Yep.
And I'm really excited to do this with you, Ricky.
I love you, buddy.
I love you too, man.
All right.
And also, you can also comment below what you would like for us to talk about for our main segment in the June episode. Our main topic in this one was Unkle Dallas Greenhorn. In the first episode, it was his days with Savvy.
Yeah.
And we're maybe thinking about doing Head East.
Would
for
love
the
to.
third episode.
Needs to be told. It's a great story.
Yeah. And so maybe his days with Head East.
A lot of local guys worked on that project.
Right. And so maybe that'll be the third episode. We'll see. Comment down below. And make sure you tune in next time on
The Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Emanating from the piney woods of East Texas, this is the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show. RLG has been playing music since the mid-70s. Ricky Lynn Gregg was the very first country artist to have a website and the first Native American country artist signed to a major label. In the 1990s, he had 6, count them, 6 top 10 CMT videos. He had 3 studio albums, including one that reached the top 40 on the Billboard charts in 1992. He has had 3 top 75 Billboard singles, including the number 36 If I Had a Cheating Heart in 1993. And of course, almost 30 years later, he is the current and reigning 2017 ETX Music Guitarist of the Year. Guys, this is the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.
Careful what you wish for, it might come true. Boy, and if it does, what are you gonna do?
Welcome to the Ricky Lynn Gregg Show.